Hello, everybody. You know who I am by now. And I wanted to talk to you guys tonight about the case of the death of George Floyd, the black man that was held down by his neck by a Minneapolis cop who wouldn't get off the guy's neck even as the guy was laying on the ground screaming he couldn't breathe. Again, an innocent black man had been killed by so-called police officers that had sworn to uphold the honor of the badge. But if you're using your honor of the badge to go out and stalk and harass innocent black people and possibly kill them, you're not worthy to wear the outfit of the police. And I want to say to a couple of friends of mine, I'll stand with my black brothers all the way. You know, they're fighting for their rights in this country. Just like I'm fighting for my rights in this country to live, love, and be happy. But from what I've seen in my local news over the last 2 days, is I've seen a lot of young black people being made to feel like they're becoming the hunted. And they should not have to feel that way. But when you got dirty cops working the beat, it makes things awful hard on them. And people wonder why blacks hate whites so much. You know, and I have a friend who does some vlogs here on this platform. His name is O'Shea. And I want to be able to be on the same level as they are and understand where they're coming from. But there are some people in the black community that don't want somebody like me in that circle to try and understand and maybe come to some sort of detente. That if you're going to let your hatred of a particular race stunt you, then you're going to miss out on some pretty terrific people. But when I heard about George Floyd being held down by his neck by a Minneapolis cop, something's got to be wrong there. It's not just the 4 cops that they had terminated, and some have been arrested as of this video. I'd say they go back and look through that whole police force, starting with the chief and fellow police officers. If they have anything on their record like excessive force against any people that they arrest, white, black, Chinese, Mexican, if they're using excessive force, then you hold them accountable. But what these guys did is selective murder, racial profiling. It's disgusting. And I haven't seen the video, and I really don't want to see the video. But people are telling the police officers to get off his neck. He's saying he can't breathe, right? And one of the asshole cops says, well, if he's talking, he can breathe. And again, Mr. Floyd says, I can't breathe, I need water. And within minutes, that guy was motionless on the ground. People were screaming to get off his fucking neck and to let him up. And I think some even screamed to do CPR on that person. I think they said that George Floyd was a 40-plus-year-old guy, you know, being held down by police for whatever reason. I don't know. But let me look back in here. But I have to agree with one of the tweets from the NAACP where it says, hashtag George Floyd is not an isolated incident. Neither was hashtag Breonna Taylor, hashtag Eric Garner, hashtag Freddie Gray, hashtag Sandra Bland, hashtag Philando Castile, hashtag Sean Reed, hashtag Michael Brown, and countless others who have lost their life to law enforcement. And this is quoted exactly right in my mind. At the end of their tweet, they say, "This is systematic state-sanctioned murder. Hashtag, we are done dying." Again, that's just from an article I have up here on my Facebook or news feed here. And I'll share that article because it's pretty long. But you know, when you've got young people in the black community, whether it's the black community, the Islamic community, a lot of them are being made to feel like they're becoming the hunted. And they should not have to feel that way. But then you've got a xenophobic in the White House. You got people in the White House that don't care. And you've got David Dukes of the world out there. You've got somebody that doesn't know how to shut that crap off and thinks it's perfectly normal for people to beat the crap out of each other. And what's worse is, I think racial hate crimes have gone up since Trump got it into office. And I feel so bad for my fellow brothers and sisters in that community, you know, because they're dying needlessly. I'm going to read some of this article. A black man who yelled, "I cannot breathe," as a white Minneapolis police officer had pinned him down with his knee in the U.S. state of Minnesota died on Monday. Police confirmed, drawing outrage from community members and leaders, leading to the officer's termination. Video of the incident shows the police officer pinning down George Floyd, believed to be in his 40s, on the pavement, with his knee on the man's neck for several minutes. Floyd was identified by prominent civil rights leader Ben Crump, who said he had been retained by the Floyd family. Floyd can be heard saying in the video, quote, "Please, please, I cannot breathe," unquote. The officer tells Floyd to, quote, "relax," unquote. Floyd responds back, quote, "I cannot breathe. Please, the knee in my neck," unquote. The officer continues to hold down Floyd with his knee for several minutes, with Floyd pleading and asking for water. He says, "My stomach hurts, my neck hurts, please, please, I can't breathe." Floyd cries out while moaning and trying to cough. Floyd eventually appears motionless under the officer's knees. Those who were watching the incident unfold can be heard begging police to move off of him. And they're saying he's not fucking moving. An onlooker can be heard saying, "Get off his fucking neck," one says. It's unclear what happened before and after the video was taken. The FBI to investigate. They had a news conference on Tuesday that the 4 officers involved in the incident were now former employees. The mayor of Minneapolis says that the officers have been terminated, saying that this is the right decision for our city. And it goes on to say here, it says, in a statement on Tuesday, the Minneapolis Police Department said its officers were responding to a report of a forgery in progress. After the suspect got out of his car, he physically resisted officers. The statement said officers were able to get the suspect into handcuffs. And note, he appeared to be suffering a medical distress. He was then transported to a nearby medical center where he died a short time later, said the department. They said the BCA was investigating the circumstances surrounding an incident. It's added that it was sharing information with the Federal Bureau of Investigations, which is conducting a separate federal civil rights investigation at the request of the Minneapolis Police Department. Al Rondo said he requested the FBI involvement after receiving additional information from a community source. He didn't elaborate. And the police that were involved in the incident were wearing body cams, but they The footage has not been publicly available for what the article says here. And Nakima Levy-Armstrong says it's trauma on trauma. And it goes on to say, community leaders and members have expressed outrage over the incident, with many drawing comparisons to Eric Garner, an unarmed black man who died in 2014 after being placed in a chokehold by New York City cops and pleading, "I can't breathe." That incident sparked nationwide protests. We all watched the horrific death of George Floyd on video as witnesses begged the police officer to take him to the police car and get him off his neck. Crump, the Floyd's lawyer, said in a statement on Tuesday, "This abusive, excessive, and inhumane use of force cost the life of a man who was being detained by police for questioning about a non-violent charge," he added. "How many wild black deaths will it take to end the racial profiling and undervaluing of black lives? When will it all end?" Nakima Levy-Armstrong, a local lawyer and prominent activist, wrote on Facebook that this is trauma on trauma. On trauma, she says. She then says, "We can't escape police violence even in a global pandemic," she added. And she says in her tweet, I will read it verbatim for you, and you can look through the article once I get this posted. Let me see here. It says, Minneapolis police officers killed a black man last night by placing a knee on the back of the neck while he was handcuffed and lying on the ground. This is pure evil. This is what we are dealing with here. Eric Garner, Part 2. Trigger warning. Graphic. And I don't know if that link's any good, but I'm not going to take the time to check it because I want to get this article finished here. It goes on to say, Minneapolis Mayor Fry called the incident, quote, wrong on every level, unquote. Quote, being black in America should not be a death sentence, he said in a Facebook post. This officer failed in the most basic human sense, he added. All I keep coming back to is this man should not have died. To our black community, to the family, I'm so sorry. Others said that while the firing the officers was a good first step, they should also be prosecuted. The actions of those officers involved are inexcusable and warrant swift consequences, says Leslie Redmond, the president of the NAACP. The actions represent a dangerous precedent set forth by the racist, xenophobic, and prejudicial sentiment in our society against the black people. We've witnessed a violation of our human rights, and we all must hold all involved criminally accountable for the death of Mr. Floyd, she said in a statement. Hundreds of protesters rallied in Minneapolis later Tuesday to express outrage and demand greater action. Organizers urged participants to wear masks and adhere to social distancing guidelines. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, protesters chanted, quote, I can't breathe, and unquote, and no justice, no peace as they moved to the intersection where Monday's incident occurred in the police precinct where the officers involved worked. And it says, videos of the protest showed police using tear gas on demonstrators. Police said some protesters damaged police vehicles and a window of a precinct. And it goes on to say under a bold headline, string of police killings. Monday night's incident comes on the heels of several cases of black men and women being killed by police or former law enforcement across the U.S. The FBI is investigating the shooting death of Breonna Taylor in Louisville, Kentucky. Taylor, a Louisville EMT, was killed by police in the early hours of March 13th as she laid in her bed. Police said they were serving a warrant as part of a drug investigation when they returned fire from the apartment. Taylor's boyfriend said he was firing in self-defense, believing his home was being busted into. No drugs was found in the apartment. One officer was injured. The U.S. Department of Justice is weighing possible hate crimes in the U.S. state of Georgia over the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery, an unarmed black man, and the police handling of the case. Arbery was killed in February as he ran through a mostly white neighborhood in Glenn County, Georgia. The arrest of Gregory McMichael, a retired investigator for the local prosecutor's office, and his son, both of whom are white, came more than 2 months after the incident and after a video of the shooting went viral, raising questions about the handling of that case. Police have also arrested the man who filmed the incident. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation is also investigating the shooting death of Yassan Mohammed, a Saudi American man who was killed by police on May the 9th. And it says, if I can get down here, he was killed by police on May 9th after having several altercations with law enforcement in the 24 hours before his death. Police say they fired on Mohammed after he charged officers with a large rock. The Council on American Islamic Relations in Georgia has condemned this incident and called for answers, including whether Mohammed was suffering from mental health issues. And there is a tweet from the NAACP that says hashtag George Floyd is not an isolated incident. Neither was Breonna Taylor. Hashtag Breonna Taylor. Hashtag Eric Garner. Hashtag Freddie Gregg. Hashtag Sandra Bland. Hashtag Philando Castle. Hashtag Sean Reed. Hashtag Michael Brown and countless others who have lost their life to law enforcement. This is systematic state-sanctioned murder. Hashtag we're done dying. And it goes on to say here, according to the Washington Post Fatal Force database, more than 1,000 people have been shot and killed by police within the last year. According to this database, black Americans are killed by police at a disproportionate rate. African American adults are 6 times more likely to be imprisoned or jailed than white adults, according to the Sentencing Project watchdog group. These racial disparities have given rise to Black Lives Matter, which was founded in 2013 and seeks to end police violence and build local power to intervene in violence inflicted on black communities. So this is why Black Lives Matter was established, because so many more black people are either killed or locked up. And, there's a lot of disproportionate thing here. And it goes on to talks about how the officer who had knelt on George Floyd's neck is now charged with murder. And you can look at that. And it goes on, it says, Derek Chauvin charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter in death of George Floyd, an unarmed black man. The fired officer who knelt on George Floyd for several minutes as Floyd pleaded, "I can't breathe," has been charged with murder and manslaughter. Give me a minute. Just a second here, people. I've been dealing with this all day. God damn. Come on, I got stuff I gotta do. Fucking assholes. But let's get back to the article now that I had to deal with that minor annoyance. But that cop that had his knee down on that guy's neck has been charged with murder and manslaughter. Protests erupted in cities across the states over the deadly arrest of Floyd, an unarmed black man who was pinned to the ground by the knee of a white officer in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Protesters rallied in Minneapolis for a third night on Thursday into Friday, with some demonstrators overtaking a police building and setting it on fire. The Minnesota National Guard arrived in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and surrounding areas. And here's the interesting piece here. Twitter had hit Trump's tweet criticizing the protesters and Minneapolis' handling of the protest as a violation of his policy on glorifying violence. And it'll give you all the latest updates, I'm sure. So, yeah. And let's go down here. Obama has talked about this. Former President Barack Obama issued a statement on Floyd's killing via his Twitter. Obama cited conversations with friends in recent days, including one with an African-American business owner who says Floyd's killing hurt to watch. Quote, "While it's natural for people to want things to return to normal," Obama said, "we have to remember that for millions of Americans, being treated differently on account of race is tragically, painfully, maddeningly normal." And the headline for that, Obama says, this should not be the normal in America. And he wrote like a nice statement on the death of George Floyd. And I read this. Let's see. He says, "I want to share parts of the conversations I have had with friends over the past couple days about the footage of George Floyd dying face down on the street under the knee of a police officer in Minnesota. The first is an email of a middle-aged African-American businessman. Quote, "Dude, I've got to tell you, the George Floyd incident in Minnesota here hurt." The guy says, "Dude, I've got to tell you, the George Floyd incident in Minnesota hurt. I cried when I saw that video. It broke me down, the knee and the neck. His metaphor for how the system is so cavalierly holds black folks down, ignoring the cries for help. People don't care. Purely tragic." Another friend of mine used the powerful song that went viral from a 12-year-old Kedron Bryant to describe the frustration he was feeling. "The circumstances of my friend Kedron may be different, but the anguish is the same. It's shared by me and millions of others. It's natural for our lives to get back to normal. As a pandemic and economic crisis expand everything around us, upend everything around us, but we have to remember for millions of Americans, being treated differently on the account of race is tragically, painfully, and maddeningly normal, whether it's while dealing with the healthcare system or interacting with the criminal justice system or jogging down the street or just watching birds in the park. This shouldn't be, quote, normal, unquote, in 2020 America. It can't be normal. If we want our children to grow up in a nation that lives live up to highest ideals, we can and must be better. It will fall mainly on the officials of Minnesota to ensure the circumstances surrounding George Floyd's death are investigated thoroughly and that justice is ultimately done. But it falls on all of us, regardless of race or station, including the majority of men and women in law enforcement who take pride in doing their tough job the right way every day to work together to create a new normal in which the legacy of bigotry and unequal treatment no longer infects our institution of our hearts." You know, and people are being made to feel like they're being fattened up for the kill. Young people as young as 18 years old have said, I'm lucky to have lived this long. You know, in fact, some people are saying, I'm waiting for, I'm waiting to see if a cop will come up and kill me, is what they're saying. And no young black man, no young black woman should be made to feel that way. And I'm standing with a few of my fellow brothers and sisters in the African American community that are fighting for their rights to live, love, and be happy. But they can't as long as there are people like Trump in the White House and there are people like those policemen that go out and kill people for the sheer fun of it. And when somebody says they can't breathe and are struggling to breathe and they're asking for water and they don't hear the cries for help, then it should be up to the people in the audience that are videotaping that shit to step up and throw those cops off that guy. Maybe if they did, that man might still be here. But Derek Chauvin has been charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter on the death of George Floyd. It's all over Twitter. And it makes me sad that it took Barack Obama to talk with a sense of calm when you have an idiot like Donald Trump talking like an idiot. The National Guard has arrived in Minneapolis. And it's sad. You know, if that isn't bad enough, the NABJ calls arrest of CNN journalist unfathomable. The on-air arrest of CNN journalist Omar Jamines, who is black, was condemned by Dorothy Tucker, president of the National Association of Black Journalists. It's unfathomable and upsetting to witness the structural racism in real time. We are closely monitoring the situation, Tucker said in a tweet. You know, and local NABJ chapter head Nicole Norfleet reached out to Jimenez to offer support. And the Minnesota governor has apologized for the arrest of a CNN reporter. Also says there'll be swift justice for Floyd. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz says he expects swift justice for George Floyd. It is my expectation that justice for the officers involved will be swift and will come in a timely manner, and that it will be fair, Swift said. That is what we've asked for. I've been in contact with Hennepin County attorney, and I'm confident that these very things I have said will happen. Prosecutors have been criticized for taking more than 3 days to announce a decision on charges for the officers. Waltz publicly apologized for the arrest of a CNN crew. And Joe Biden is furious about Trump tweet. And he says, Joe Biden says that he was furious about Trump's tweet glorifying violence against protesters in Minneapolis. Quote, I will not lift the president's tweet, the former vice president said. I will not give him the amplifications, but he's calling for violence against American citizens during a moment of pain for so many. I'm furious, and you should be too. And I'm not going to read about Marlena Trump because she's married to the biggest xenophobic there is. And I must admit, I saw the video of George Floyd's brother who was crying on nationwide television. Brother of George Floyd, I just want justice. Excuse me. Floyd, the brother of George Floyd, said he just wants justice. His brother says the protesters have the same pain that he felt. I want everybody to be peaceful right now, the brother says. But people are torn and hurt because they are tired of seeing black men die constantly, over and over again. Phil Knowles told CNN, I understand and see why a lot of people are doing a lot of things around the world. I don't want them to lash out like that, but I can't stop people right now because they have pain. They have the same pain that I feel. I want everything to be peaceful, but I can't make everybody be peaceful. I can't. It's hard. And you can read more if you get the chance. And let's get down here. Twitter flags and hides Trump's tweet that glorified violence. And this is what I want to talk about here real quick. Twitter has, for the first time, flagged and hid a tweet by Trump saying that he violated Twitter's rules about glorifying violence. Trump took to his Twitter on Friday, saying that when the looting starts, the shooting starts, in reference to a nationwide protest that followed the deadly arrest of George Floyd, an unarmed black man in Minneapolis. Twitter flagged that second tweet with a disclaimer saying, this tweet violated the Twitter rules about glorifying violence. However, Twitter has determined it may be in the public's interest for the tweet to remain accessible, allowing the public to still view the tweet by clicking on view. You know, and I'm going to end it right there because I think it's time to censure Trump on his xenophobic, racist, sexually perversive dealings on Twitter. Let's not forget he called one person Pocahontas. Let's not forget he thinks that black people are stupid if they don't vote for him. You know, Trump's track record isn't very good. That cop's track record is shot to shit. They all should go up the river for murder. Let's see here. You know, and you can look down through here. Parts of Minneapolis were set on fire because things are so heated. And it's really, really, really pathetic, and it's very, very sad. You know, and this is why I have to do news stories like this. Because I want to show that I will stand in solidarity with my black brothers and sisters. They should not have to be afraid to get up in the morning and walk down the street and visit with their friends and visit with their neighbors and be able to go to school and try to be happy. But there are some people out there in this world that don't want that. You know, and part of the problem is racism has exploded in the last almost 4 years since Trump took office. I think people like David Duke and people like the head of Russia have amplified racism to the 10th degree, really. Because I worry about a former neighbor of mine that doesn't live here anymore. You know, I've had a lot of black friends all through school, and I worry about them. I worry about my former neighbor. I worry about my friend O'Shea, who gets on his YouTube. Granted, it's not for my audience, but I want to be able to stand in solidarity with my fellow brothers and sisters who are doing the right thing, talking about what is wrong. You know, and I know there are some in the black community that don't like it when a white person marries a black person. But I'm not going to go into that. He has a right to talk about what he wants to talk about on his channel, and I support him on that. And I want to let all my fellow brothers and sisters in the black community, I hope that one day we will see an end to racism. But as long as Trump is in office, that's not going to happen. You know, those cops need to be held accountable. And in my view, they should get the damn death penalty. If not, a life sentence, put in the toughest prison that there is, never let out. Hopefully the prisoners will take care of them in prison. No black man, no disabled person, nobody that's been targeted, anybody that's been a target does not have to live in fear. They should not have to live in fear, is what I meant to say. They should be able to go out there and lead productive lives and make something of themselves. But there are some people in this country that don't want that. And it's a sad thing, but we have to fight to hold these bastards accountable for their racist and xenophobic and anti-black, anti-gay, anti-disabled. That shit has to stop. But as long as Trump is in office, it's not going to happen. But I'll stand in solidarity with my fellow brothers and sisters, no matter what race you are, no matter what country you're from. If you're out to make a good, honest living, you have my respect. And those that don't can stay out of my zone. I'm standing with my friend O'Shea and anybody else in the black community that has ever felt persecuted, knocked down, dragged out, kicked in the face, and spit on. I stand with you. And to the family of Mr. Floyd, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what happened to your son and to the person's brother. I'm sorry you lost your brother. Hopefully those cops will get what's coming to them. But we need to fight back against racism. We need to nip it in the bud. I want all of us to come together, and if those that don't want it, they can go on their own little island, because I don't deal with racism, I don't deal with fascists, I don't deal with xenophobia. And it's sad. And you know something? I'm glad the people burned up the police station up there in Minneapolis. Because that racism shit should not be allowed on any police force. You take the oath to protect and serve. Do no harm. But when you're choking a black man, either by putting, slamming him down to the ground and holding your knee over his neck to the point where he can't breathe, those guys were out for murder. There was no doubt in my mind. If I ever find that video, I may watch it. But out of respect for Mr. Floyd, I choose not to. Because that would make me as bad as the onlookers who filmed it. It's kind of a double-edged sword, the people that face this. You got people filming it, and then you get people standing off to the side saying, "Get off his neck. Get off his neck. He can't breathe." And if they don't get off the neck of the person, why didn't any of the bystanders step up to help him, huh? So, it's just pathetic. It just really is. My thoughts go out to Mr. Floyd tonight. And thank you, Mr. Obama, for talking calmly. If you want to hear about that, I'll share it in the bottom of the video. To my friends O'Shea, keep up the fight. I stand with you all the way. If there's anything that I would be able to do to help, you let me know. Anybody in the black community that watches my video, anything you want me to do, you let me know. Because no young black person in the United States of America should be made to feel like they're being fattened up. And it's really sad when you see young people say, I'm lucky to be at 18. I'm lucky to be at 22. I'm waiting for the day when a cop will come up on me and try to kill me. I've seen that on my local news here in my city. A young man that they interviewed at 15 and again at 18 still has that same mentality. I'm lucky to be at the age that I am because I don't know when or if I'm going to die, one way or the other. Just sad. But look at the article below. It's got like a lot of things with it. You guys could take a look at it. And as for Donald Trump, it's time that places like Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch, and any other social media platform takes the necessary steps to rein him in. And about time, too. Because his xenophobia has been going on for a long time. You know, get that son of a bitch out of there. And even went against a football player that was kneeling for black rights. And bastardized everybody from not being able to kneel at a fucking ball game or a racing event. You know, but like I said, as long as there are xenophobics in places of power like the White House or the governor's seat or any other branch of government or law enforcement, things aren't going to change. But I'm willing to do anything I can to help make that change, to make life better for our young people. Because like I said, I have a neighbor that I've known practically my whole life who lost his parents, one to illness, one in an accident, and one who lost, he also lost his brother to OD. So, yeah. Nice kid, but had a big string of bad luck, and I don't want him to be another young African American killed at the hands of idiotic xenophobic policemen. Not gonna happen. But I'll stand with my black brothers and sisters any day of the week. And those that don't want to make a good living can go on to another planet. Don't be like that idiot at the Popeyes who body slammed a white woman who dared a woman to hit him. You know, those are the people that need to have a psych evaluation. But for the regular, general population of good, honest people that want to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, no matter what color you are, if you feel like you're being targeted, do something about it. That's what I try to do. I try to call out xenophobics. And I finally shut my brother up on his views on Donald Trump. He still supports the guy, but he doesn't talk about him around me. He's learned to have an off button in my house. But it's high time that we start knocking out these stupid xenophobics and teach them that we all have a place in this world, whether you want to believe it or not. And I feel bad for George Floyd's family because George Floyd will not be coming home tonight. He'll not be having a nice dinner with his family. He'll not share messages over the phone with his brother since we are in a COVID crisis. And because a cop decided to be big and badass by putting his knee over the guy's neck, he wound up killing the guy. He should get life in prison. He should live every day in pain. All four of those cops should live every day in pain. And I'll say that until the day I'm dead. To my fellow brothers and sisters in any community, I stand with you. To the xenophobics, screw you. To the racists, fuck you. Don't have time for that. Don't have a place for that. You can get out. You don't like blacks? Fuck you. You don't like disabled people? Fuck you. You could join the president in hell for all I care. So, I've said what I said on this shit. I'm going to get off. I see some more storms coming in, and I will talk to you later. To George's family, I'm sorry. I don't know what else there is to say. I don't know what I can do to help. But if anybody has any ideas on how I can help, let me know. Because I really want to help out my fellow brothers and sisters that are doing the right thing and making their voices heard. People are mad as hell and they're not taking it anymore. Because it seems like so-called law enforcement allows racism to infiltrate the police force.